it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. If this is your first time, I'm glad you're here, and I hope you'll take a look around and see what you like and let me know what you read. And if you have a channel, any of you, if you have a channel, let me know so I can make sure to subscribe. I try to check when it looks like a person who's commented has their own channel, but I might miss it sometimes. I am feeling better. Thanks so much for all of your well wishes and comments, hoping that I would feel better. I'm still a little hoarse. I'm still a little congested, but monumentally improved from where I was. Definitely don't love a summer illness like this. Congestion, bronchitis, cold, whatever, sinus infection. None of that is good in the summer. But I survived it, had a lovely trip away with my family, and got a lot of reading done in the month of June. So let's talk about my June reading. In the month of June, I finished 8 books. A couple of them I started in another month, but I finished 8 books, a total of 2,805 pages read in all of those 8. 6 were fiction, 2 were nonfiction, and 5 were new authors to me. So it was a nice month for reading. Because I traveled a couple of times, I did get to finish some things in one solid gulp, pretty much. So I read a Kindle book on a flight to Portland. I read a Kindle book on a flight back from Portland. I got to read a little bit in the car on the way to, and listen to on the way to my trip. And my trip ended in July. So I've already read 2 books in July because we had an 11-hour drive. So yeah, it was a good opportunity to read. And that is what I love about summer, is if you travel, or if you are a person who reads by the pool or the beach or on a boat, you are able to get a lot of reading done because you have some time to really devote to that alone and not be distracted by the other things that might happen in your life. So let's talk about where I began in the month of June. The first book I read was The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. I started it in May. I finished it on June 4th. It was a library copy, but I also listened to part of it on Scribd, I think, maybe Overdrive. And it was my first time to read a Pam Jenoff. I had heard my daughter liked The Orphan's Tale, and some other people had read this particular book. It's a historical fiction novel set in World War II. It follows a group of women who are recruited to transmit information on radios, and they are flown into and transported and dropped into Paris to transmit information from Paris back to England about the Nazis' occupation of that city, and in order for the Nazis to invade the city of Paris and ultimately win the war. Very difficult mission. I like this book. It's interesting, when I was doing this wrap up for today, I hadn't rated it on Goodreads, and so I'm not sure why. I remember afterwards feeling a little like I wasn't sure what rating I wanted to give it. So I'm going to tell you now, I gave it, I think, a 4-star. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It was primarily followed one particular character, but it did give you the perspective of a lot of different people that were involved in this mission. And I'm not sure why it wasn't a 5-star read for me. It was for a lot of people, but it just really, I mean, I did like it a lot. I would read another one of her books for sure. Then I finished The Clockmaker's Daughter, which I started in April and did not finish until June. And that's only because other stuff got put in priority. I did some readathons and I had some arcs that I needed to get to, and so I put it aside for a bit. When I picked it back up, I really couldn't put it down. And I would have read it all in one gulp if other things hadn't gotten in the way. But I do love Kate Morton, and this was a surprise to me because it was a little bit of a departure from some of her previous novels. And the synopsis on the jacket of this book is not necessarily as accurate as the book actually becomes. It talks about this artist colony, and it talks about this discovery of this satchel, which did happen in the modern narration by the one character. but it's also a ghost story, and it's also very gothic in nature. It's not, it's not what I expected, and I just loved it. I really did. I've heard some mixed reviews. I've heard a lot of people who are Kate Morton fans didn't love it, but I really did. And I think I gave it, yeah, I gave it 5 stars. So I would reread it again. I'm so glad I bought this copy of it. And yeah, it was neat. Then I participated in the Buzzword Readathon, and the word for this quarter was you. And so I started with I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. I hauled this in June from a used bookstore. It's got a little smudge on it from the sticker. I need to get that off. But this was Alice's second novel. I read the first, which was Sometimes I Lie, and I really loved it. I was okay, just okay with this one. A little disappointed. It was fairly short. It was a quick read. It did keep me reading, but it was a little predictable. There is a child abuse trigger. I think I mentioned that in another video, a wrap-up video. But so if that's a trigger for you, definitely I wouldn't take a look. It's a dual timeline as well, so it follows a woman whose husband goes missing, and she's suspected of some sort of crime involving her husband. It flashes back to her childhood, which was problematic and troubling, and back and forth, but it was a little predictable, and there was a bit of a twist in the end for me. I didn't completely see the ending as it turned out. No spoilers from me, but definitely not what I was hoping for from Alice Feeney. A lot of people felt the same, it appears. Some people gave it very low ratings, but I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. I'm glad I read it. I'll probably keep it, but I don't know that I'll read it again and again for sure. So that was an author I've already read. Claire McIntosh was a new author to me, and I listened to the audiobook version on Scribd of I See You for the Buzzword Readathon. It was a little predictable for me too. I have heard other people say that a couple of her others are better. I kind of saw the ending happening, Shirley did, but at one point, sort of before the ending started to unfold, I thought to myself, gosh, I'd really like for a thriller author at one point to do this as a plot twist instead of the sort of typical wrap-ups. And she did do that. It just wrapped up a little quickly for me, and I don't know, it was a little slow moving. The plot is really about a woman who's on the train and going to work and sees a picture of herself in the newspaper in a classified ad that's connected to what looks to be a dating service, and she did not participate in that. So then she sees that every day a woman's photo is included in the classifieds with the same sort of premise, and she calls the police, and it's a thriller. And I mean, I would, it was good. I recommend. 3 stars means I liked it, and I did. I liked it. I'll Be Your Blue Sky. I did not finish for the Buzzword Readathon, but I got started a little bit in it, and then I finished it on a flight to Portland. So it's a Kindle read for me. Maria de los Santos is also a new author, as was Claire McIntosh. I think I said that. Maria de los Santos was an author that my niece liked. And I've also heard this book recommended by the modern Mrs. Darcy and Bogle a couple of times to a couple of different people. So I had gotten it a long time ago and just never got to it. Picked it up for the Buzzword Readathon. Really liked it. It was charming. It's a light kind of a love story. The plot begins with a woman who's about to get married and is a bit uncertain about whether she should marry this guy. And she tells her mom, and her other sort of mom, that she's not sure, and she's having some second thoughts. And then she speaks to a stranger on a bench, an older woman, and the older woman basically says, why are you marrying this person if you don't want to marry this person? And then it takes off from there. It's a great summer read. I thought it was a little predictable, but it was satisfying, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I, on the way back from Portland, read The Turn of the Key, which was an advanced reader's copy for me from NetGalley. The Turn of the Key is Ruth Ware's 5th novel. I think it comes out in August. I loved it. 5 stars. So I do love Ruth Ware. I've loved every book she's written, but this one may be my favorite because it's an epistolary novel. It's written in letters, mostly from the main character, who's a nanny hired by this family to take care of their children at their home in Scotland. The home is a character in and of itself. I'm going to do a more thorough review, a video just on this book itself, because it was an advanced reader's copy for me, but suffice it to say, I loved everything about it. And again, I gave it 5 stars, and I do plan to buy it when it comes out because I want to have a copy forever and ever and ever. The Power of Ted by David Emerald. David Emerald is a new author for me. Actually, maybe I didn't count him. Maybe I had 6 new authors. Yeah. I was taking a class called Coaching in TED, Coaching in the Empowerment Dynamic, and so this was recommended as supplemental reading. It's a modern day parable, which a lot of people don't like, but sometimes for nonfiction concepts, parables are a good way to present it, and I thought it really was. You have to get past the sort of cheesy parts of the parable and into the actual content. I think that would be my recommendation. I really liked it. It's about it presents the drama triangle, which is the victim, persecutor, rescuer scenario, and how we are all in those roles a lot of the time. And then it introduces the new way of being, which is, let's see, creator, challenger, and coach. So that would be the flip side of the drama triangle. It gives you a great sort of practice for a daily way of starting out your day with lots of great illustrations. And yeah, it was a great teaching, a great way to assimilate the other material that I learned in class. I think I'll buy it for people this year, and I gave it 4 stars. And then maybe my most miraculous accomplishment for June, I finished The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. I feel so proud. I finished it by listening to it on my way to Missouri. So I finished it on the last day of June. I was determined. I would have stayed up all night if I needed to, but I didn't. So I gave it 4 stars, and normally I would have given it 3, but here's why I gave it 4. It was so well researched and so detailed that I feel like I liked it, and I liked the second half of it way more than the first half. Once the World's Fair started, it picked up for me, and that's when I was like, okay, I got this. But the first half is so densely detailed that it is really hard to stick with it, I think. I do plan to read more by Erik Larson, but again, I gave it 4 stars because this guy has got the chops when it comes to researching and writing, because it is written like a novel. You think that in fact, there were a couple times I thought, now, how does he know that? How does he know that that's what he did? How does he know that that's what he was feeling? So of course he takes some liberties, but it's all very well researched and documented, and he talks about where he got it. And I counted this for 390 pages, even though with the appendices it's more like 450. So he does definitely tell you where everything came from, where all the sources came from. He must have worked on this for a very long time. I'm really excited that I finished it before the movie comes out, because I am looking forward to seeing what they do with that. I have a feeling it will be more centered around the H.H. Holmes serial killer aspect of the story rather than the World's Fair aspect of the story. But it was fascinating. Both of the things were fascinating, not so much the architecture, but the things that we now have because of the Chicago World's Fair. I mean, there's just so many things that were born in that exposition. Cracker Jack and the concept of Disney World is really influenced, and Disneyland really influenced by the World's Fair in Chicago. Pabst Blue Ribbon beer was introduced during the World's Fair. just so much history and so much that I really appreciated about this book. So I'm so excited that I finished, and I do think I will read another one of his novels. We have two or three. We have In the Garden of the Beasts and Thunderstruck, and I think we have one more. And so I definitely plan to read some more by Eric Larson, and I like the way that he presents it, and I'm anticipating that he does that in the other books that he's written as well. Presents it in a more fictional way of reading it, even though it is well researched nonfiction. So that is my June wrap up. A little late, but no less excited about what I was able to read. I'll be getting some more videos up this week now that I'm home. I can get some things filmed ahead and get the rest of the month planned out. And then I go on another trip in August and another at the end of August, first part of September. So lots of opportunities to read, lots of things that I've already read 2 books in July. Did I say that? I've already finished 2 books in July on my trip back, so that's been fun. And I've got a couple on my nightstand. And I hope you are enjoying your summer reading time. I hope that you are inspired to read some of these books and that they are books that you enjoy as well. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you've read any of these. And as always, happy reading. Bye.